Are you looking for a fast and manoeuvrable vehicle in Tears of the Kingdom? Something that doesn't require advanced building techniques like stake nudging or glitches like Q-linking? Well, I think I've got the build for you. This thing's easy to build, it's really quick, it turns well, and more importantly, it's actually quite strong and doesn't fall to pieces every time it hits something. Let's get building. We're going to need some materials. We'll require 8 small wheels, 4 large wheels, 2 wagon wheels, a steering wheel, and finally the only unique item that we'll require is 2 flux core ones, which can be obtained from the flux constructs either in the Sky Islands or in the depths. Fortunately, everything else can be found at the Hudson construction yards next to Tarrytown, which is coincidentally exactly where we're going to build. Once you've got a couple of flux core ones, you can detach these with Pellison at Tarrytown. And you can use the elevator in order to take them down to the construction yard. They're quite heavy, so you'll probably have to use Ultra Hand here to help the elevator. Once you've got all your materials, the first thing to do is attach a small wheel to a small wheel at right angles to one another. The important thing here is the glue doesn't interfere with the motion of the wheel, and you can test this just by throwing an apple and looking to see whether both wheels move at the same rate. You might need to attach and reattach a couple of times to get it right, but once you have it once, use auto build to repeat the process and build a second. You then need to attach these 2 modules together in a straight line. You can then attach the remaining 4 small wheels to the sides of the 4 that are already constructed. This should be really simple because there's snap points that should line them up perfectly. And with that, the chassis is complete and it's time to work on the axles. They're made with a flux core and wagon wheel attached together and then sandwiched by 2 big wheels. This is the crux of the build. It's important that they're perfectly aligned in order to get best performance from the vehicle. You can get away with them being a bit wonky, but the vehicle is much more likely to break. So with the flux core vertically aligned, lower down a big wheel from above and try and get it perfectly centered. You probably won't get this on the first attempt, so you will need to attach and reattach several times. I've had to do it myself. A trick to check alignment is to lift up the axle from the flux core and rotate it. You'll be able to see whether the wheel's wobbling left or right, and if it's perfectly centered, you'll see that also. Next, attach the wagon wheel to the other big wheel. This should be easy as there's a snap point. And then you need to repeat the process of lowering down onto the flux core and trying to get it centered. If you need to redo this, you can use auto build to kind of undo your progress, or you can just detach holding the wagon wheel, and that way your previous work won't get ruined. The good news is you only need to build 1 axle perfectly, and then you can just use auto build to repeat and build a second. When you have the 2 axles, drop them into an upside down chassis and make sure that the arrows on the small wheels and the big wheels are pointing in opposite directions. Now that everything's in place, it's just time to attach the axles to the chassis and we're done. To do this, pick up the axle from the wagon wheel and attach it to the small wheels where the axle sits naturally. Again, test with an apple to see if the glue interferes with the small wheel's motion. Do the same with the second axle. And if you're having trouble with this, make sure that you're attaching the wagon wheel kind of on the outside of the small wheel's hub, and that way the glue will interfere less. Final thing to do is just add the steering wheel, place it somewhere in the middle, and then we're done. Save it to your auto build favourites, and that way you don't have to repeat the process, and then you've got access to a fast and manoeuvrable vehicle at any time you want. Now, there is one flaw with this vehicle, and that's without any momentum, it's not particularly good with hills. You might have to resort to using Ultra Hand to carry it up somewhere. But other than that, it's great. It's especially fun going fast downhill in it. Let me know what you think. Cheers, bye.